January 8, 2026 will go down as one of the most embarrassing moments in the ANC's history. This was not a celebration. It was a picture of desperation. From the early hours of the day, tension was thick in the air. Behind the scenes, reports began circulating that even President Cyril Ramaphosa himself was considering canceling the event altogether, and for good reason. For the first time in decades, the once mighty liberation movement faced an unthinkable reality. It could not even fill a stadium with a capacity of just 20,000 people. Let that sink in. This is the same party that once mobilized millions, the same movement that defined South Africa's political identity. And yet, on January 8, 2026, empty seats told a story louder than any speech delivered on that stage. So how did we get here? To understand the empty stadium, we must rewind the clock. We must look at what was happening behind closed doors just a year earlier, the criminal activities, the questionable dealings, and the shadowy flow of money that quietly eroded public trust. Because these events don't collapse overnight, they rot slowly from within. What you are about to see exposes how these gatherings are really organized, who funds them, and what happens when the money dries up. This is not speculation. This is testimony. Roll the video of Kat Matlala's testimony.
Did you ever pay for that January 8?
Yes, I did.
How much?
I will say between 150 and 200. I'm not quite sure about it.
Did you pay the money to the account given by Mkhozi?
Yes, there's also proof of payment for that.
Okay. Is there anybody who wants to speak to this matter? Okay. Honorable Nomvalo, Honorable Skosana, Honorable Sangoni, Honorable Mwango.
Yeah, so when you paid this 150,000, was it upon request from Mr. Brown Mkhozi? I mean,
yeah.
So he requested.
Yes, but I didn't pay 150 once. It was accommodation, flights.
So did he specify why he wanted the money? What he wanted the money for? Did he say that, can you give us this assistance for this activity?
Yes, he said that.
He said for January 8.
Yes.
Did he mention who was also to benefit from that amount?
Yes, he said the minister.
So he was asking the money on behalf of the minister. That is how he requested for it.
According to him, yes.
According to him.
Yes.
Him and the minister, or the minister only?
Say that again?
Him and the minister, according to his request, was it for him and the minister or for the minister only?
No, it was, from what I understand, the minister sent him to go and ask for donations there and there.
Okay.
And then I was one of them.
Okay.
And then he asked me that money so I can donate for them for this January 8th thing of theirs. So I don't know who was going to benefit there.
So you just send the money, you don't know how it was spent and on what? You don't know. You just sent it.
The flight, I paid them directly. I knew this is what the flights, because he sent me the ID numbers.
Okay.
So I have them on my WhatsApp chats.
So which ID numbers did he send? For who?
For different people.
For different people?
I think maybe 10 or... I don't remember how many people.
The ID number also has, I assume, when you book for a person, you use an ID number and full names.
He sent me copies of IDs.
Okay. So was an ID of the minister part of those copies?
No.
It wasn't?
No.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
What you have just watched is Vusimuzi Kat Matlala testifying before an ad hoc parliamentary committee. Now, let's slow this down and analyze what he is What you have just watched is Vusimuzi Cat Matlala testifying before an ad hoc parliamentary committee. Now, let's slow this down and analyze what he is actually saying, because the connections he is making are nothing short of explosive. Matlala is not a minor figure. He is a private security boss who was involved in a massive 360 million rand contract with the South African Police Service, a contract that was later flagged for serious irregularities. And yet, under oath, he makes an admission that cuts straight to the heart of ANC funding. He openly acknowledges that he financed ANC activities. When committee members ask him directly whether he paid for January 8th events, his answer is immediate and unambiguous. Yes, I did. When asked how much money was involved, he states the figure plainly, between 150,000 and 200,000 rand. More importantly, this was not vague or undocumented support. Matlala confirms there is proof of payment. He explains that the money was not deposited into some general party account. Instead, he paid for specific logistical costs himself, accommodation, flights, and travel expenses. And then comes the most damning detail of all. He says he still has the ID numbers of the individuals whose flights he purchased stored directly on his WhatsApp messages. This is not hearsay. This is not political rhetoric. These are traceable transactions. These are the smoking guns. Now, fast forward to 2026. A year later, the same party struggles to mobilize resources. Stadiums sit half empty. Events that once symbolized strength now expose weakness. And with that context in mind, watch carefully what comes next. Please roll the video of President Cyril Ramaphosa at the 2026 ANC January 8th event.
We want to create jobs and economic opportunities, and opportunities to use young people to use their energy, their creativity and innovation to build their communities and their country. However, we must also recognize that our own weaknesses and failures in service delivery, in governance and slow pace of economic growth, as well as the high levels of unemployment, have demoralized and alienated many individuals in our country. Le go menagane go le jwalo, re tshwanetse gape go lemoga gore ha re palelwa borona mo ditirong tse tshwantseng gore di dietse, batho ba fellwa ke pelo, ba tsamaya ba tloga gaufi le rona. Re tshwanetse gore re etse matsapa ohle, really ANC, re bontshe sentle gore re sebeletsa setšhaba sa heso. We cannot blame our people if they question whether our democracy, our constitution, or our economy, and indeed our movement and the alliance really work for them. It is these weaknesses and failures that the tasks outlined below seek to address. Re a dumela gore there are areas where there have been shortcomings, but we now, as the ANC, focus on the tasks that the National Executive Committee has outlined that we need to address and embark upon to correct those weaknesses in order for the African National Congress to serve the interests of our people.
In this video, you hear President Cyril Ramaphosa making some very telling admissions. Standing before a visibly thin crowd, he concedes that the ANC must acknowledge its own weaknesses and failures in service delivery. He speaks about the slow pace of economic growth. He admits that high levels of unemployment have demoralized and alienated the people of South Africa. In essence, he is acknowledging what millions of South Africans already live with every single day, that the party in government has failed to deliver. He goes even further. Ramaphosa tells the nation that we cannot blame our people if they begin to question whether our democracy, our constitution, or even our movement still works for them. That is not opposition rhetoric. That is the president of the ANC admitting a crisis of legitimacy. But the real story of January 8, 2026 is not found in Ramaphosa's carefully scripted speech. It is found in the reaction of the people who are living through this reality. And that reaction is loud, even in silence. Let's spend a moment analyzing the public comments on these videos, because they reflect a level of collective awakening that South Africa has not seen before. These voices matter. They are being ignored by the political elite, and they deserve to be heard out loud. Please show the image of the comment from Lindiwe Keswa Zavi. Lindiwe writes, "Why are people practicing social distancing in the stadium? Is there CO-19 there?" Now listen to the depth of that sarcasm. This is not simply a joke about empty seats. Lindiwe is pointing to the physical and political distance between the ANC and the masses. In 2026, the social distancing she is referring to has nothing to do with a virus. It is about a political divorce. People stayed at home. They did not want the T-shirt. They did not want the free bus ride. The empty seats became a silent protest, and Lindiwe's comment captures the irony perfectly. A party that claims to speak for the people could not even convince 20,000 of them to show up on its most important day. Please show the image of the comment from Thabo Macau. Thabo writes, "So the ANC held a private function and only invited 114 people. This is not just humor, this is analysis. By calling it a private function, Thabo exposes how the ANC has shifted from a mass-based liberation movement into an exclusive club for the politically connected. When a 20,000-seat stadium is nearly empty, it stops being a public rally and starts resembling a closed-door meeting of elites. Thabo is saying something profound. The masses are no longer invited, because the party no longer serves the masses. It serves ministers, tender beneficiaries, and the Matlalas who fund the flights. Please show the image of the comment from Kathleen Ann. Kathleen writes, "That record or vinyl is stuck." With one sentence, Kathleen cuts straight through Ramaphosa's speech. She is saying we have heard all of this before. The promises of renewal, the admissions of failure, the focus on youth and reform. This record has been playing on repeat since 2018. Every January 8th, the same song is played, and yet nothing on the ground changes. The stuck record becomes a metaphor for a party incapable of evolving, trapped in a cycle of corruption, patronage, and self-preservation. Please show the image of the comment from Tabong Maropa. Tabong writes, "I suddenly remember that Whitney Houston song, same script, different cast." This comment goes even deeper. Tabong is telling us that it doesn't matter who stands at the podium, whether it is Ramaphosa or anyone else, the script remains the same. The promises don't change, only the actors do. It is political theater. Different faces, different voices, but the same failures in service delivery, the same economic stagnation, the same broken outcomes. But now we arrive at the most important comment of all, the one that bridges the gap between the empty stadium and the growing arrogance of leadership. Please show the image of the comment from Valentine King. Valentine writes, "But Mantashe has said government is not an employment agency." Huh? So who must give us jobs when they are the ones destroying the economy with their corruption? This comment lands like a direct punch. Valentine is calling out Gwede Mantashe, the national chairperson of the ANC, and exposing a gaping wound in the party's logic. How can leaders tell people to fend for themselves when they are the ones presiding over economic destruction? How can you distance yourself from unemployment while corruption suffocates investment, growth, and opportunity? To understand the depth of anger and betrayal in Valentine's words, we need to revisit exactly what Gwede Mantashe said and how that statement reflects the growing disconnect between the ANC leadership and the lived reality of ordinary South Africans. Now please roll the video of Gwede Mantashe on SABC.
Over 70. I've never had a government looking for a job for me. You know that? Never. I went to Teba, I took a contract, went to the mines, worked as a miner, went back home, bought cattle, bought sheep, went back to the mines, and I did that. The difference is that today, because there's a progressive government, people expect that government to go and give them jobs. They don't look for jobs. And that must change. I'm sure to be here in SABC yourself, you look for an advert, you applied, you got into SABC. Not the SAB looking for you. You looked for a job and you got employed. And people must begin to appreciate that you do queue up for a job, you get employed, adverts are not going to employ you. You will have to look for the advert and apply in real terms. If you don't do that, you're not going to be employed. And I'm going back to the point I made. Let's move out of being a passive society to be an active society.
Then comes the moment that reveals everything. Gwede Mantashe says, "We did not struggle to be passive. We struggled to build a country, to be part of finding solutions. We must all be part of the solution and not be dependent on the state or the ANC for solutions." Let that sink in. This is the national chairperson of the ruling party telling South Africans not to depend on the ruling party. So let's ask the obvious questions. What is the point of having a government if people are told not to depend on it? What is the point of voting for the ANC if the ANC itself is saying, "Expect nothing from us"? And then comes the most insulting part of his statement. Mantashe says, "I am over 70. I've never had a government looking for a job for me. I went to the mines, worked, went back home, bought cattle, went back again. Today, because there is a progressive government, people expect government to give them jobs. They don't look for jobs, and that must change." Let's deal with this honestly. Gwede Mantashe is over 70 years old. He grew up in apartheid South Africa. He entered the workforce at a time when mining jobs were widely available. Yes, those jobs were brutal. Yes, they were dangerous and underpaid, but they existed. Today, South Africa has unemployment above 30% and youth unemployment far higher. We have young people with diplomas and degrees who cannot find work of any kind. The economy has changed. The labor market has collapsed. The world is not the same. Yet Mantashe compares his experience in the 1960s and 1970s to what a 25-year-old faces in 2026. The arrogance in those words is breathtaking. Here is a man who has sat at the top of the political food chain for decades, minister after minister, year after year, blaming young people for being passive while presiding over the destruction of the very economy they are supposed to survive in. He tells a 30-year-old to look for job adverts, ignoring the reality that decent job adverts are now as rare as honest politicians. He talks proudly about the mining industry, but conveniently forgets that his own party's policies, corruption, and mismanagement have hollowed that industry out. Now let's connect the final dots. On one side, you have Vusimuzi Cat Matlala admitting that he paid up to 200,000 rand for January 8th flights because a minister asked him to. That is not activism. That is not generosity. That is corruption in action. On the other side, you have Gwede Mantashe calling the poor and unemployed passive for failing to find jobs in an economy his party has wrecked. The ANC leadership is very active when it comes to taking money from politically connected businessmen, but ordinary South Africans want to be active enough to survive without any help from the state. Mantashe says people should not depend on the state or the ANC for solutions, yet the ANC is completely dependent on the Matlalas of this world for its survival. They take the money, they fly business class, they stay in luxury hotels, all funded by the very assistants Matlala described under oath. And then they have the audacity to lecture a hungry young person in a rural village about dependency. That is the hypocrisy at the heart of this crisis. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it to the end, you are part of the solution. You are someone who cares enough about South Africa to understand how corruption works, how the system is rigged, and how our democracy has been captured by criminal networks. Please share this video. Please like it. Please subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We need an army of informed citizens who demand accountability. The future of South Africa will not be decided in Parliament, in cabinet meetings, or at January 8th celebrations funded by Cat Matlala's dirty money. It will be decided in conversations like this, in comment sections, in communities, in spaces where people speak the truth and open each other's eyes. The ANC may have the money, but we have the truth. And in the end, the truth always wins.